1915, which was when it was established, tuberculosis was the leading cause of death in St. Paul. And not just St. Paul, but in Minnesota, in the US. Unfortunately remains a leading killer outside of the US, but no longer in the US. And so the idea was to establish this to try and slow that rate of disease and death at the time. This property, which is beautiful, was initially set aside and owned by Anchor Hospital, which was the public hospital for St. Paul. And there was initially a TB, tuberculosis hospital set up here for a brief period of time. At the time was felt to be the best way to keep them healthy and keep them away from, unfortunately, this was why it had to be separate, individuals with tuberculosis, because we knew that transmission of tuberculosis was often what was happening within the homes where the kids were coming from. And you offer them many of the things that we had at the time, which were lots of fresh air, exercise, good nutrition. We could intervene in that transmission of tuberculosis at the time. Average stay ended being about 30 months. They got heliotherapy and air baths, which were also the recommendations. And heliotherapy, helio is sun, so as much time in the sun and as much of their skin getting sun contact. And then they also rested during the day, because one of the main thoughts was that resting in fresh air for TB was good treatment. They also had supervised activities because they wanted the children to be active in those 12 hours that they weren't sleeping, because we knew physical activity also helped. But they had to be active, but not too active. So they did things like ride ponies. They did things like ride a boat, fish, played baseball, but in a very controlled environment. Its heyday was in the 20s and 30s, and then after the 1940s, there was a drop-off in terms of the number of individuals, because we were getting more adequate treatments for tuberculosis, and so being able to intervene. We also had more information about transmission and how to slow transmission and active disease too. The Preventorium closed in 1953. We didn't have final treatment plans, full treatment, until probably 66, 68. The land lay separate for about a couple of years, and then the state initially opened a site for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Tuberculosis has been around for a long time before me, and it will be around a long time after me as well. We at Ramsey County still have, on average, 40 cases a year of people with active tuberculosis, and it's required that we do what's called directly observed therapy. So anyone with active tuberculosis, our public health nurses actually give them their medicines every day. The recommendations now are a standard of 4 medications, and the last medication that's part of that foursome was found and started to be used in 1966. Average treatment is about 6 months, but can take as long as a year sometimes, because tuberculosis grows really slowly, and we also have to make sure that all of it is killed before we stop the medication. Otherwise, it has the risk of potentially returning again with that resistance, which can make it harder to treat. But we at least have it under significantly better control now.